Hi, K-Clubbers. Welcome to week 12. So today's topics, we're going to work on facilities and other resources, equipment, environment and institutional commitment to candidate, and resource sharing plan. Check your FOA to make sure whether or not you need to include the resource sharing plan. And then homework. So going back to our K application sections, after today we will have covered all of these. Today we're going to focus on setting. First, facilities and other resources. So there's no page limit on this, but I don't think it'll take you that long to describe these things. So are there enough organizational, university, or institute resources available to you to perform the research you're proposing? Identify what facilities you will use. So the headings or titles are laboratory, animal, computer, office, clinical, and other, and describe their capacities. So include square footage, the address, and physical aspects of the space. Their capabilities related to your proposed project. So what do they enable you to do? Their relative proximity to each other, and the extent of availability to your project. So for example, if your project involves neuropsych testing at a clinic, you describing the space available to you at the clinic, including the square footage and particular room information and how many hours a week you'll have access to that room. Reviewers need that info. It's crucial for them to determine whether or not you have all the resources you need for that particular part of your research. Hopefully you won't run into a condition where you need 5 monitors, but if you do, explain how you're going to, where you're going to sit that has 5 monitors available for you to do what you need to do. So what is your university's investment in your success? You also want to discuss resources for classes, travel and training, career enrichment programs, collegial support, organized peer groups, guidance, and supervision of trainees. So for example, does your university have a writing center that you can use? Are there NIH writing boot camps at your university? Do you have an office of contracts and grants that will help you and support you in terms of helping you meet your research and career goals? In terms of logistical support, so do you have administrative management or oversight or best practices training at your university? Guidelines to help you be successful. And finally, do you have financial support? So do you have protected time for research with salary support? So in some places, once you become an assistant professor, if you get a grant, you can buy out of teaching, at least part of your teaching that's required every semester. Take note. Check with your grants office or person to see if there is an established template of this document that you can edit to fit your project. So you may not need to start from scratch. Next up, equipment. There's no page limit, but this shouldn't take more than a page or two. You're going to list the major items of equipment already available for your project. So check if your university has a catalog of core facilities to help you find equipment. Identify the equipment's location and capabilities relevant to your project. So here's an example of equipment. This person is doing microinjections, so they bolded information, equipment related to the microinjection, and then bolded the part of the equipment section important for their cell culture and virus infection assays. Again, your grants office may have an established template of this document that you can edit to fit your project, so don't assume you have to write this from scratch. The third section we're covering today is environment and institutional commitment to candidate. So typically ask someone from your institution, writes this letter of support for you. So ask your primary mentor or grants office who it will be. Maybe it'll be the dean of your college, the chair of your department, or a provost. But you'll likely need to supply some text to that person to address the following things. To what extent does the institution provide a high-quality environment appropriate for your development during the K-99 phase of your award? To what extent are the research facilities and educational opportunities, including collaborating faculty, adequate and appropriate for the candidate's research and career development goals during the K-99 phase of the award? So do you have support? Do the research facilities cover everything you need for your K-99 portion of your grant? Do you have training opportunities on campus or affiliated with your institute in order to pursue your career goals? Is there adequate evidence provided that the K-99 sponsoring institution is strongly committed to fostering your development and preparation for transition to independence? And is there adequate assurance that the required minimum of 9 person months, so 75% of your full-time professional effort, will be devoted directly to the research training, career development, and research activities proposed for the K-99 phase of the award? So if your postdoc position is set up where you have to do a certain percentage of your time actually doing teaching or clinical supervision or clinical hours, that's going to be tricky because you need at least 75% protected research time for K-99. Again, check with your grants person to see if there's an established template that you can edit. Last but not least, resource sharing plan. So this may not be applicable, but check your FOA to make sure you need to include it. Here you explain how you will share data and resources from your project. So there are example resource sharing plans online. Feel free to Google them. But you need to address the following info and write not applicable for these sections that aren't relevant to you. Data sharing plan. Will you make raw and unprocessed data reported in publications available to external groups? Under what conditions and why? Will you make software documentation and code available for free? Under what conditions and why? How will you disseminate the results of your research? So are you going to do it via scientific conferences, university lectures, public talks, publication in journals? And if relevant to you, sharing model organisms. If you're doing genome-wide association studies, how will you share this data and under what conditions and why? Again, check your grants office or person to see if there's a template that you can edit for your project. So action items, write drafts of the following to share with your primary mentor and co-mentors. Facilities and other resources, equipment, resource sharing plan. Talk to your primary mentor about what info to provide to the person who will be writing your environment and institutional, commitment to the candidate. So it might be a dean, chair of the department, provost. Try to hunt down who needs this information and how best to get it to them. A lot of the environment and institutional commitment to candidate should be from the facilities and other resources and equipment sections. So all you might need to do is give whoever the person writing this section, your version of these sections and potentially the specific aims of your project. All right, see you for the last week of K Club next week.